Take that old nurse watch off before you lecture real officers about courage. Police Chief Grant Hollis said it into the microphone with a smile, and half the town hall heard it before they understood how cruel it was. Mara Voss stood beside the folding table in the Cedar Falls Municipal Gym, her hands folded over a small canvas bag. She wore a plain gray coat, flat shoes, and a cracked silver watch pinned upside down to her collar, the kind nurses use to check a pulse without using both hands. Someone in the back gave a nervous laugh. Chief Hollis took that as permission. No uniform, he said, letting his eyes travel over her coat. No badge, no authority, just a former nurse with a grievance and a camera she claims tells some big story. The gym had been set for the town hall hearing like a civic celebration. Rows of metal chairs, a flag behind the long table, local reporters along the wall, parents from Maple Street, business owners, retired officers, a few teenagers filming with their phones because scandal always looked smaller until it was live. Mara did not raise her voice. "I'm not here for a grievance," she said. "I'm here because your department buried what happened on Briar Road." The chief's smile thinned. Beside him, Captain Leo Marsh reached for the microphone, then stopped when Hollis placed one hand over it. Marsh was the kind of man who never made the first cut, only sharpened the blade for someone else. Hollis leaned closer to Mara. "Careful," he said. "You're standing in a public hearing accusing sworn officers. You understand what false statements can cost you?" "I understand what silence costs." That answer bothered him more than anger would have. On the second row, Denise Harper from the County Oversight Office paused with her pen hovering above her notebook. She had come to observe, nothing more. By then, several people had already complained that the hearing felt less like public accountability and more like a staged victory lap for the chief. Hollis wanted applause. He wanted the room to see a tired woman making trouble. So he gave them a show. He picked up Mara's canvas bag from the table before she could stop him. A small sound escaped her then, not loud, but enough for the first row to hear. The chief held the bag by 2 fingers. "This is what we're doing now," he said. "Props, keepsakes, old hospital trinkets." Mara's face changed just once. Her hand rose toward the bag, then lowered. "Please don't open that." That was the line he should not have crossed. Hollis opened it. The cracked watch slid into his palm along with a folded strip of blue fabric and a tiny plastic case. The case hit the table with a light tap. Inside it was a memory card with a white label written in neat block letters. Briar Road. The reporters noticed first. Phones lifted. Hollis noticed the phones and laughed, but not naturally. "Well," he said, "isn't that dramatic?" Mara reached for the plastic case. He pulled it back. "No," he said. "If you bring evidence into my hearing, we all get to know what kind." "My hearing," Mara repeated softly. The words landed in the gym with more force than a shout. Hollis's jaw tightened. "This town trusted me to clean up a mess," he said. "You were protected by that same system, Miss Voss. Housed, hidden, fed, and this is how you repay it?" At that, Mara's breathing changed. Most people in the gym missed it. Denise Harper did not. Protected. It was the first crack in the chief's careful story. A protected witness was not supposed to be named in public, not hinted at, not used as a weapon, especially not by the man whose department had signed the papers promising to keep her safe. Mara's eyes moved across the room, not searching for rescue, but counting who had heard. The chief kept going. "You want to embarrass this department at a town hall hearing because you miss feeling important in a hospital room." A woman near the aisle murmured, "That's enough." Hollis ignored her. He held up the memory card between 2 fingers. "What's on this, Mara? Some shaky video? Some out-of-context clip from a body cam that doesn't prove what you think it proves?" Mara's voice stayed level. "It proves enough." A chair scraped. One of the reporters stepped closer. Captain Marsh finally whispered, "Chief." But Hollis was already past caution. His pride had taken the wheel, and pride never checks the road. He dropped the memory card back into the case and pushed it toward Mara, hard enough that it skidded near the table's edge. "Then, play it," he said. "Play your little clip for everybody. But when this is over, understand something. I will make sure every agency in this state knows you lied under oath, violated witness protocol, and tried to smear officers who risk their lives while you hide behind a dead career." The gym changed after that. Not silent exactly. Worse. Alive with the sound of people realizing they had just watched a powerful man threaten a woman in public and expect gratitude for it. Mara picked up the plastic case. Her thumb rested over the white label. For 1 second, the nurse's watch at her collar caught the fluorescent light. Its glass was cracked across the face, but the second hand still moved. Tick, tick. Denise Harper closed her notebook. "Chief Hollis," she said, "I strongly recommend you stop speaking." He smiled at her, too. That was his final mistake. Mara opened the case, and before anyone in that gym understood why a former nurse had carried one body cam clip for 11 months, why a police chief feared a memory card more than a lawsuit, or what had really happened on Briar Road, she reached for the town hall laptop and said the first sentence that made his department begin to fall. "You named me in public, Chief, so now I get to answer in public." But to understand why that clip existed at all, and why Mara Voss had stayed quiet until the one night he could not bury her voice, you have to go back 3 weeks earlier, to the laundromat on East Willow Street, where she still wore that broken watch and still believed hiding was the only way to stay alive. 3 weeks earlier, Mara Voss folded towels at the East Willow laundromat in Cedar Falls, Ohio, while the dryers beat a tired rhythm against the wall. She worked the evening shift because fewer people asked questions after dark. Most customers wanted detergent, quarters, and silence. Mara could give them all three. Her name tag said M. Voss in black marker because the printed one had cracked months ago. Her hair was tied back. Her shoes were clean but worn at the heel. Pinned upside down to her shirt was the same silver nurse's watch, its glass split by a thin white fracture. When a little boy coughed too hard near Machine 6, Mara crossed the room with a paper cup of water before his mother even noticed. "Small sips," she said gently. "If his lips turn blue or he starts pulling under the ribs, call 911. The mother blinked. "You a nurse?" Mara's hand went to the watch. "Used to be." That was the answer she gave everyone. She did not say she had worked 12 years in emergency medicine. She did not say she could read panic in a hallway before a monitor screamed. She did not say she had once testified behind a screen while 3 deputies stood outside a courtroom door because a drug crew on Briar Road had promised to find the woman who kept one witness alive. The state called her a protected witness. Cedar Falls called her quiet. The laundromat owner, Mrs. Alvarez, called her dependable and paid her $13 an hour in checks that always cleared but never stretched far enough. Mara rented the back half of a converted garage behind a closed bakery. It smelled faintly of flour when it rained. Her son's old lunchbox sat on the highest kitchen shelf. She never opened it before work. Eli had been 9 when the fever took him faster than the doctors could explain. A virus, they said. A terrible turn. Nothing anyone could have stopped. Mara had believed them because nurses knew the body could betray hope without warning. The watch had been his last birthday gift to her. He had found it at a flea market with his allowance and told her it made her look like a serious hospital person. After he died, she kept wearing it, even when the hospital badge came off, even when witness protection gave her a new apartment, even when the state told her to remove personal markers. Some things were not markers. Some things were proof you had been loved. At 8:40 that night, a police cruiser rolled slowly past the laundromat windows. Mara's folding stopped. The cruiser did not park. It moved on, turned at the corner, then passed again 10 minutes later. Mrs. Alvarez noticed from behind the counter. She was 72, sharp-eyed, and kinder than she pretended to be. "You want me to lock up early?" "No," Mara said. "I'm fine." Mrs. Alvarez did not believe her, but she respected the answer. A week earlier, Mara had received a letter from the Cedar Falls Police Department. It said she was required to appear at the upcoming town hall hearing regarding civilian complaints, officer conduct, and witness program expenditures. The language was clean and formal. The meaning was not. If she failed to appear, the department would report non-cooperation to the county office handling her protection stipend. If she appeared and said the wrong thing, she risked exposure. If she appeared and stayed silent, Chief Hollis could turn her into the reason his department needed more control, more secrecy, more money. The hearing was in 21 days. Her housing assistance was up for review in 23. Mara had read the letter twice, then put it under the chipped sugar bowl beside the stove. She had not slept much since. The first sign that danger was truly returning came through the laundromat's front door at 9. Captain Leo Marsh entered with no hat, no urgency, and no laundry. He smiled like a man visiting a neighbor. "Mara," he said. Mrs. Alvarez's hand moved beneath the counter, where she kept the phone. Mara kept folding. "Captain Marsh." He glanced around the room. 2 college girls near the dryers, an old man reading a newspaper, a mother packing warm clothes into blue baskets, public enough to keep his voice polite. "I'm just here to make sure you got the department's notice." "I got it." "Good. Chief Hollis wants this hearing clean. No confusion, no emotional side roads." Mara placed a towel on the stack, edges aligned. "What does clean mean?" "It means you answer what you're asked. Nothing extra, especially about Briar Road." The old man's newspaper lowered by an inch. Marsh noticed and softened his tone. "You were helped, Mara. A lot of resources went into keeping you safe after your testimony. People could misunderstand if you make it sound like the department failed you. Did it fail me?" His smile held, but his eyes did not. "You know how records work. If a protected witness becomes unstable, support can be re-evaluated. Housing, work placement, confidentiality agreements. It all connects." There it was. Not a threat shouted across a room. Something worse. A threat polished until it could pass for concern. Mara pressed her thumb against the cracked watch face. The second hand jumped, then kept moving. Marsh saw the gesture. "You still wear that thing?" "My son gave it to me." His expression changed just enough to tell her he already knew. "I'm sorry. I forgot." He had not forgotten. When he left, the cruiser did not return for almost an hour. Mara finished her shift, counted the register, wiped the lint from the dryer screens, and walked home with her keys threaded between her fingers. The garage apartment was cold. She locked the door, checked the window latch, then took the sugar bowl from the counter. Under the letter was a small plastic case no bigger than a matchbox. Inside was the memory card, Briar Road. Mara had not watched the clip in months. She did not need to. The sound lived in her already. Rain on asphalt, a man begging not to be moved, an officer saying the body cam was off, another voice, lower, familiar, saying to make the report match. She had not stolen the clip. A dying officer had given it to her. He had pressed the card into her palm in the ambulance while she held pressure against a wound no bandage could fix. His body cam had captured the minutes everyone later denied. Before he lost consciousness, he made her promise one thing. Not yet. At the time, Mara thought he meant wait until trial. Then, the trial collapsed. The officer was buried. The department sealed the incident under internal review. And Chief Hollis rose from acting chief to permanent chief by promising Cedar Falls he had cleaned up Briar Road. Mara set the case beside Eli's watch repair receipt, the only supporting paper she had kept from the week everything original file. She had never used it. Using it meant becoming visible again. Her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. She let it ring out. A text appeared. "Town Hall is your chance to be grateful." Mara sat in the dim kitchen until the screen went black. Then she took the cracked watch off her shirt, wound it carefully, and pinned it back on. Not because it made her brave. because Eli had given her something that still kept time, even after everything else tried to stop. Chief Grant Hollis had built his reputation on clean podiums and dirty rooms. In public, he was Cedar Falls's favorite kind of lawman: tall, controlled, gray at the temples, a church pancake breakfast volunteer who remembered widows by name and stood behind grieving families when cameras arrived. His office wall carried photos of him shaking hands with mayors, veterans, football coaches, and one senator who probably forgot Cedar Falls the moment his car left town. People said Hollis brought order. What they meant was that he made disorder invisible. The town hall hearing was supposed to prove that. One event, one evening, one camera line for every local station. Hollis would explain that recent complaints were political noise, that his officers had followed policy, and that the department's witness protection spending had been generous, even heroic. Mara was useful to that story. A former nurse with no uniform, no current license, no family beside her, and a sealed witness file most people could not read. If she sat quietly, Hollis could point to her as evidence of compassion. If she objected, he could frame her as unstable. Either way, he won. 2 days after Marsh visited the laundromat, Mara received a second notice. This one required her to attend a preparation meeting at police headquarters. Failure to cooperate, it warned, could affect her protection status. The meeting was set for Friday morning. Mara arrived at 8:55 with the cracked watch on her collar and no purse, only the canvas bag folded under one arm. The Cedar Falls Police Department sat on Main Street in a brick building with reflective windows and flags that snapped hard in the wind. Inside, the lobby smelled like floor wax and burnt coffee. A young officer behind the front desk asked for her ID, then studied it longer than necessary. "Former nurse?" he said. Mara took the card back. "Yes, my aunt's a nurse." "Still working, though," he said it like a joke. Mara gave him nothing to hold. A woman seated near the vending machine lifted her head. She had a bruise yellowing along her cheekbone and a toddler asleep against her chest. Mara recognized the stiff way she held herself, like pain had to be managed in public. The front desk officer slid a clipboard toward the woman. "You missed a line," he said. "If you won't write the statement clearly, we can't help you." The woman whispered, "I did write it. You wrote that he scared you. Scared how?" Mara's hand tightened around the canvas bag. She could have stayed quiet. Protected witnesses survived by becoming furniture. Instead, she leaned slightly toward the woman and said, "Use action words. Pushed, hit, blocked the door. Took your phone. Those matter." The officer's expression hardened. "Ma'am, don't coach people in a police lobby." Mara faced him calmly. "I'm explaining language." Before he could answer, Captain Marsh appeared from the hall. "Mara," he said, all warmth for the cameras in the ceiling. "Chief's ready." As she followed him, she heard the woman scratch new words onto the form. That small sound stayed with her longer than it should have. The conference room held Chief Hollis, Marsh, and Denise Harper from the County Oversight Office. Harper had a neat black folder, silver-framed glasses, and the guarded patience of someone who had spent years being underestimated in meetings where men mistook volume for facts. Hollis stood when Mara entered. "Mara, thank you for coming." His tone belonged on a brochure. Harper offered a hand. "Denise Harper. I'm observing the witness expenditure portion of the hearing." "Observing," Hollis said lightly. "Not investigating." Harper made a note without reacting. Mara sat. A single document waited in front of her. Marsh placed a pen beside it. "This is just a pre-hearing acknowledgement," he said. "It confirms you understand the town hall is not a venue for sealed case details, personnel allegations, or protected witness disclosures." Mara read the first paragraph, then the second. The third made her stop. By signing, she would agree that any statements concerning Briar Road were unsupported personal impressions unless cleared in writing by the department. Mara's eyes moved to the signature line. Hollis watched her with the pleasure of a man who had set a trap under a rug. "This protects you too," he said. The last thing we want is for you to accidentally expose yourself to legal trouble." Harper reached for the document. "May I see the exact language?" Marsh slid it toward her, but Hollis spoke before she could read more than a few lines. "It's standard." Harper's pen paused. "Then standard should hold up to reading." A thin silence entered the room. Mara saw it then, the chief's private insecurity hiding under all that polish. He could handle anger, he could handle fear, he could not handle being questioned by someone whose approval he needed. He needed the hearing to look clean because the county was reviewing funds. He needed Harper to see order. He needed Mara to appear small. So, he changed weapons. "I understand your reluctance," he told Mara. After leaving nursing under difficult circumstances, it must be hard to trust institutions. Mara felt the words land exactly where he aimed them. She had not left nursing because she failed a patient. She left because her protected identity made hospital work unsafe, and because the licensing board had placed her file on inactive status until her testimony issues cleared. Hollis knew that. He also knew Harper might not. "I left because your department put my name in a report it should have sealed," Mara said. Marsh gave a soft laugh. "That's not accurate. Then the original file will show it." The air changed. Hollis's hand flattened on the table. "What original file?" Mara did not answer. For the first time since she entered, Marsh's polite face slipped. Only a second, but enough. His eyes went to her canvas bag. Harper noticed, so did Hollis. "What's in the bag?" he asked. "Laundry," Mara said. It was not a lie. There was a folded towel inside, wrapped around the plastic memory card case and the receipt with the case number on the back. Hollis sat back. "You understand," he said, "that protected materials in private possession can be a violation. I understand that evidence doesn't stop being evidence because it embarrasses someone." Harper's pen moved again. The chief smiled, but the room had shifted under him. He pushed the acknowledgement back toward Mara. "Sign it, and we all get through the hearing without dragging old pain into public." Mara thought of the woman in the lobby rewriting her statement. She thought of Eli's watch ticking against her chest. She thought of the officer in the ambulance pressing the card into her palm with blood on his fingers and fear in his eyes. Then she capped the pen without signing. Marsh's chair creaked. Hollis's voice dropped. "Then understand this. At the hearing, I will ask you direct questions. In front of everyone. You will not like how small the truth sounds when it has no paperwork behind it." Mara stood. Harper closed her folder, slow and deliberate. "Chief," Harper said, "I'd be careful with that approach." Hollis kept his attention on Mara. He had missed the real danger. He thought she was afraid because she had no proof anyone would believe. He did not know the proof was already in the room, wrapped in a towel, carried by a woman he had taught himself not to see. The next morning, Mara found an envelope taped to her apartment door. No return address, no stamp, just her name printed in block letters. Inside was a copy of her housing review notice with one sentence highlighted in yellow. "Continued eligibility depends upon compliance with all protection protocols." Under it, someone had written, "You already broke one." Mara stood in the narrow hallway behind the old bakery and listened to the building breathe. Pipes ticked in the wall. A delivery truck backed up somewhere in the alley. Nothing moved close enough to see. That was how fear worked best. It did not always kick down a door. Sometimes it waited politely where you lived. She took the notice inside, locked both locks, and set it on the kitchen table beside the sugar bowl. Then she opened the little plastic case and checked the memory card. Still there, still labeled, still smaller than the weight it carried. At noon, Mrs. Alvarez called. "Mara, I need to tell you something before you come in." The laundromat owner sounded angry, which was better than scared, but not by much. Two officers came by. "They asked whether you keep things in the employee lockers. I said yes, gum and old gloves and maybe crackers, because you are a person, not a bank vault." Mara pressed the phone tighter. Did they search? They asked. I said bring paper. They did not like that. Thank you. Do not thank me. Tell me if I need to move anything. Mara almost said no. Then she pictured Marcia's eyes going to the canvas bag in the conference room. She pictured Hollis asking what was inside with too much calm. I'll come early, she said. By 3, she had moved the memory card from the plastic case into the lining of the cracked watch box Eli had kept under his bed. The empty case stayed in the canvas bag, still labeled Briar Road, because sometimes the safest thing to hide was the fact that something had been moved. The receipt with the case number stayed folded behind her driver's license. It was the only supporting paper she had, and the only trail that could prove the clip belonged to an official file before it disappeared into internal review. At work, people treated Mara differently. Not everyone. Most customers were still busy with socks, soap, and tired children. But 2 men by the change machine stopped talking when she entered. A woman from the city clerk's office stared at Mara's name tag for too long, then pretended to read detergent labels. By evening, a post had begun moving through local Facebook pages. Former protected witness may testify against Cedar Falls Police at public hearing. No address, no direct file, just enough to make her visible. Mrs. Alvarez showed it to her without speaking. Mara read the comments until she could not. Some called her brave. More called her bitter. One man wrote, "If the chief helped hide her, maybe she should be grateful instead of running her mouth." Mara handed the phone back. People like a story where the powerful man is tired and the quiet woman is trouble, Mrs. Alvarez said. People like whatever makes them feel safe. Are you safe? Mara did not answer. At 8:12, the young mother from the police lobby came into the laundromat carrying the same toddler and a black trash bag of clothes. Her cheek had faded to green at the edge. She saw Mara, hesitated, then walked over. "You were right about the words," the woman said. Mara lowered the towel she was folding. "They took the statement? Denise Harper was there when I came back. She told the officer to file it correctly." The woman swallowed. "My name is Tessa." "Mara." "I know. People are saying things." Mara nodded once. Tessa shifted the sleeping child on her hip. "I just wanted to say you helped me before anyone official did." That sentence almost broke something open in Mara. She had spent months telling herself that silence protected the living. But silence had not protected Tessa. It had not protected the people whose complaints disappeared under clean language. It had not protected the officer who bled in the back of her ambulance while his own body cam told the truth no report would carry. After closing, Mara walked home by a different route. 2 blocks from the bakery, a patrol car idled near the curb with its headlights off. When Mara passed, the lights came on. The cruiser followed slowly until she reached the alley, then rolled away. Her hands shook so badly she dropped her keys. Inside, she sat on the floor with her back against the door and let herself breathe in counts. 4 in, 6 out. A skill from the emergency room. From nights when the trauma bay filled faster than the staff could clear it. You could not stop fear by pretending it was gone. You gave it a rhythm and made it work under your hands. When her pulse settled, she took out her phone and called the one person she had avoided. Denise Harper answered on the 3rd ring. "This is Harper. My name is Mara Voss. I need to ask something without saying too much over the phone." Harper's voice sharpened. "Are you in immediate danger?" "I don't know." "Then answer yes or no. Were you contacted or followed after our meeting?" "Yes." "Do you still possess what the chief seemed concerned about?" Mara glanced at the watch box on the shelf. "Yes." "Do not bring it to police headquarters. Do not hand it to anyone from that department. If you intend to disclose evidence at the hearing, I can make sure the county record is open and the hearing laptop is not controlled by Cedar Falls PD." Mara closed her eyes, not from relief, but because the path ahead had become real. "If I play it," she said, "they'll say I violated protection rules. They may try. I could lose my housing. They may try that too. My name is already out." A brief pause. Then Harper said, "Mara, I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you this. A protected witness does not lose all rights because a department finds her inconvenient." After the call, Mara stayed at the table until midnight. She wrote down what she remembered from Briar Road in plain language. Not feelings, facts. Weather, time, voices, the dying officer's hand, the card, the case number on the receipt, the phrase in the clip she had never been able to forget. Make the report match. Then she made 3 choices. First, she photographed the receipt and sent the image to Harper's County email with no explanation except supporting record. Second, she placed the real memory card inside the cracked watch box and wrapped the box in one of Eli's old t-shirts. Third, she put the empty labeled case back into her canvas bag where Hollis would expect to find it. The town hall hearing was 12 days away. The next week did not ease. It tightened. Her shift hours were cut after a city contract for laundry service was temporarily paused. Mrs. Alvarez apologized with tears in her eyes and slipped Mara cash from the register, which Mara refused until the older woman threatened to fire her for stubbornness. A letter from the licensing board arrived, requesting clarification about allegations of misconduct connected to sealed testimony. No signature, she recognized, no details. Just another door closing because someone powerful had placed a hand on the frame. That night, Mara stood in her kitchenette holding the letter over the trash can. For one weak moment, she imagined packing the watch, the receipt, the card, and driving until Cedar Falls became just a place on a weather map. Then the phone rang, Tessa's number. Mara answered. "He came back," Tessa whispered. "I'm at the laundromat. I didn't know where else to go." Mara was out the door before the call ended. At the laundromat, Tessa sat behind the counter with her toddler wrapped in towels. Mrs. Alvarez had locked the front door and killed the bright sign. A red mark crossed Tessa's wrist. Mara checked her pulse, then her breathing, then the child's. Professional. Fast, certain. "You need urgent care tonight," Mara said. "And the shelter number Harper gave you." Tessa began to cry. "I don't want police. I know." Mara called Harper instead. While they waited, a cruiser passed the laundromat and slowed. Tessa flinched. Mara moved between the window and the counter. Not dramatic, just present. The cruiser kept going. In that moment, Mara understood the difference between hiding and disappearing. Hiding was sometimes necessary. Disappearing was what men like Hollis wanted from anyone who made their version of the town harder to sell. When Harper arrived with a county victim advocate, she found Mara standing by the door, the cracked watch pinned at Harper studied her face. "You're coming to the hearing?" Mara nodded. "And the evidence?" Mara touched the watch once. "I'm bringing the truth," she said, "but I'm choosing when they see it." 4 days later, Chief Hollis announced that Mara Voss would be invited to speak publicly at the town hall hearing as an example of the department's transparency. The post included her name. This time, there was no almost. He had exposed her himself, and Mara knew then that if she stayed quiet, the next buried report would have someone else's blood on it. By the night of the town hall hearing, every seat in the Cedar Falls Municipal Gym was full. Chief Hollis had made sure of it. He invited neighborhood groups, city donors, clergy, business owners, and every local reporter who had ever run a flattering photo of him beside a flag. The hearing was supposed to begin with public concerns and end with his department looking patient, generous, and unfairly attacked. Mara arrived alone. She wore the gray coat, the flat shoes, and the cracked watch pinned over her heart. In her canvas bag were a folded towel, the empty plastic case, and a change of clothes from work. The real memory card was not in the bag. It was inside the watch box. And the watch box was already taped beneath Denise Harper's chair. Harper had arrived 20 minutes early and said only, "If you choose to use it, the county record will be open." That was all Mara needed. The first hour went exactly as Hollis planned. A retired officer praised morale. A pastor thanked the department for visiting his youth group. A business owner complained about anti-police gossip. Hollis listened with solemn dignity, nodding like a man carrying the burden of everyone else's misunderstanding. Then Tessa stood near the back. Her toddler was with Mrs. Alvarez outside in the hallway, away from the crowd. Tessa's hands trembled around a folded statement, but her voice carried. "I came to the station for help," she said. "The desk officer told me my words weren't clear enough. A woman in the lobby helped me name what happened." Hollis's smile remained fixed. "That is precisely why we train victims to provide complete details," he said. "We can't act on vague feelings." Tessa swallowed. "Your officer didn't train me. He dismissed me." A murmur moved through the gym. Hollis thanked her in a tone that meant, "Sit down." Then he called Mara. Not Miss Voss, not Ms. Voss. Just Mara, as if she were a difficult patient he was indulging. She walked to the folding table at the front. Each footstep sounded too clear on the polished floor. Phones rose around the room. Hollis began kindly. "Everyone here should understand that this department has done a great deal for Mara Voss." There it was, her full name in the microphone. Her sealed identity carried over speakers, across cameras into every phone recording in the gym. Denise Harper's pen stopped. Mara did not move. Hollis continued. "After the Briar Road incident, we assisted her with housing, security, and employment recommendations. We did this because we value witnesses who cooperate with law enforcement." Mara's fingers rested on the table edge. "Protected witnesses," Harper said from the second row, "should not be identified in public proceedings without clearance." Hollis gave a practiced sigh. "This is a public hearing, Miss Harper. She is here voluntarily." Mara said, "I was ordered to attend." Marsh leaned toward his microphone. "Requested. You threatened my housing." A low sound rose from the crowd, uneasy and interested. Hollis lifted one hand for calm. "Mara has been under considerable stress. She has also made claims about sealed matters that she cannot support. So, before rumors damage good officers, I'm going to ask her plainly." He faced her. "Do you possess unauthorized department evidence related to Briar Road?" Mara's throat tightened. This was the corner he had built. If she said yes, he would call her unstable and unlawful. If she said no, he would call her a liar when the empty case appeared. If she refused, he would say she was hiding behind silence. "I possess evidence," she said, "that should have been preserved." Hollis nodded slowly, as if disappointed for the town. "Please place your bag on the table." Harper rose. "Chief, this is not a search hearing." "No one is searching anything," he said. "She brought it here." Mara did not move. Marsh came around the table. Mrs. Alvarez's voice cut from the aisle. "Don't you touch her things." A few people gasped, more at the old woman's nerve than at the chief's demand. Hollis's patience cracked. "This is exactly the theater I warned everyone about. A former nurse, a disgruntled witness, and now a laundromat owner are going to tell trained officers how evidence works." Mara's face warmed, but she kept her hands still. Marsh reached for the bag. She caught the strap. "Not hard. Enough. Ask me," she said. The captain's eyes flicked to Hollis. Hollis smiled. "Fine. Mara, may Captain Marsh examine the bag you brought into this public hearing?" "No." The word was small and complete. For a second, Hollis had no script. Then he took the microphone off its stand and walked toward her side of the table. That was the moment from the beginning, but it lasted only a breath. The insult about her old nurse watch, the laugh that followed, the way he lifted her canvas bag like it was trash from a roadside ditch. He opened it before Harper could reach the aisle. The empty plastic case slid out. Briar Road. The cameras caught the label. Hollis held it up for the room. "This," he said, "is what manipulation looks like." Mara felt something inside her fold. Not break, fold. Because in that instant she saw Eli at 9 years old, grinning with 2 missing teeth as he pinned the watch to her scrub top in the kitchen. She saw the dying officer's fingers closing around hers in the ambulance. She saw Tessa rewriting her statement because one person had finally given her the right words. Hollis did not know whose memory he was mocking. He did not care. "You carried an evidence case with no evidence," he said. "You wanted the town to believe you had something explosive, didn't you?" Marsh gave a quiet laugh into his hand. Hollis faced the crowd. "Let this be a lesson in how easily trust can be abused. We protect someone, we pay for housing, we keep their secrets, and then they come here with props." Mara's eyes stung. He was not only humiliating her, he was rewriting the last living piece of the officer's courage into a trick. He was turning her son's watch, her hidden months, her fear, her work, into proof that she had imagined the rot. Then he crossed the final line. "I'll be recommending immediate suspension of her protection support pending review," he said. "If she wants to perform in public, she can live in public." The crowd reacted before Mara did. A woman said, "That's wrong." A man near the press table muttered, "Can he do that?" Tessa stood, pale and shaking. Mrs. Alvarez moved toward Mara, but Harper was already walking down the aisle. Hollis saw her coming and raised his voice. "And if Ms. Voss continues making allegations about Briar Road, I'll ask the prosecutor to review whether she lied under oath during the original case." That threat emptied Mara's lungs. Not because of the prosecutor. Because lying under oath would stain everything the dead officer had tried to save. It would make the truth itself look dirty. It would make every future witness wonder if speaking up only gave powerful men better ways to destroy them. Mara's hand went to her collar. The watch ticked beneath her fingertips. She could still leave. Let Harper file a complaint. Let lawyers spend months asking for records Hollis had already buried. Let people argue online until the next scandal replaced her. Or she could stop giving him the comfort of delay. Harper reached the front row and bent slightly toward her chair. Mara saw the tape under the seat come loose. Hollis did not. He was too busy enjoying the damage. "Mara," Harper said clearly, "the county record is open. Every reporter heard it." Hollis frowned. "What does that mean?" Harper lifted the small watch box from beneath her chair and placed it on the table. Mara's fingers hovered over it. For 1 second, she almost could not open the box. Then Tessa spoke from the back, voice shaking but strong enough. "She helped me tell the truth." That was the hand on Mara's shoulder without touching her. Mara opened the watch box. Inside, wrapped in the faded sleeve of Eli's old t-shirt, was the real memory card. The gym's noise thinned to a hard, waiting hush. Chief Hollis stared at the card. Captain Marsh stopped smiling. And Mara, still humiliated, still shaking, lifted the memory card between 2 fingers and said, "This one has the evidence." Chief Hollis recovered first because men like him practiced recovery more than honesty. He gave a short laugh and set the microphone back on its stand. "Another memory card," he said. "Convenient." Mara kept the card between her fingers. Harper remained beside the table, close enough to intervene, far enough that the choice stayed Mara's. Hollis pointed toward the town hall laptop. "Do you expect this room to believe you carried official police footage around in a child's box?" Mara did not explain the blue star on the lid. Some things did not belong to him. "I expect the room to hear it," she said. Marsh pushed back from the table. "This is improper. Chain of custody is non-existent. She could have edited anything." From the aisle, Mrs. Alvarez said, "Then you won't mind people hearing it." A ripple went through the gym, small but sharp. Hollis ignored her. "Ms. Harper," he said, "I'm asking you, as county oversight, to shut this down before a protected witness commits another violation on a public record." Harper's answer was calm. "The record is open. The witness has alleged exposure and retaliation by this department. She may make a statement. Any evidentiary weight will be assessed later. That is not your call. It is tonight." For the first time, Hollis understood she was not there as decoration. Mara inserted the memory card into the laptop. Her hands shook once. She steadied them by pressing her wrist against the table. the same way she had steadied IV needles in rooms full of screaming. A folder opened on the projection screen. One file. No title except a string of numbers and a date from 11 months earlier. Hollis smiled at the room. Before she plays whatever that is, everyone should remember that video without context can mislead. Body cams fall, audio distorts, stress changes memory. Mara clicked the file. The gym filled with rain. At first, the screen showed darkness broken by flashing red and blue light. The camera angle was low, tilted against wet pavement. Someone breathed hard near the microphone. A man groaned off-screen. Then Officer Daniel Price's voice came through, strained but clear. Cams still on. Several people knew the name. Price was the officer Cedar Falls had buried with bagpipes, flags, and speeches about sacrifice. Hollis had stood at the funeral and called him family. Mara's eyes stayed on the screen. Another voice spoke from nearby. "Turn it off." Marsh, not a guess, not a rumor, his voice in a gym where everyone had just heard him deny the possibility. Marsh's hand found the edge of the table. On the video, Price coughed. The picture jolted, showing the side of a patrol car, rainwater running down the door, and boots moving through a shallow puddle. Then came Chief Hollis, not on camera yet, only his voice. "Leave him where he is until EMS logs arrival." Someone said, "Chief, he's bleeding out." Hollis answered, then write that EMS had scene control when he dropped. The crowd understood the first part before the legal meaning reached them. He was arranging blame while a man was still alive. Mara heard someone gasp behind her. The clip continued. Price's voice weakened. "Mara." The camera shifted as if he had tried to move. A younger Mara entered the frame in a rain jacket, hair wet, face pale with focus. She dropped beside Price and pressed both hands against his side. "Stay with me," her recorded voice said. "Look at me, Daniel. Breathe on my count." Hollis's voice cut in. "She shouldn't be here. She's medical." Someone answered, "She's a witness." Price's bloody hand rose toward Mara. The camera caught only part of it, but the audio caught the rest. "Original file," Price whispered. "Don't let them make the report match." Then came the line Mara had carried for 11 months. "Hollis, close now, clear enough for every phone in the gym. Make the report match." No one spoke. The room understood before Hollis did because ordinary people know the sound of a man choosing his reputation over another man's life. They did not need a statute. They did not need a press release. The clip ended with rain, Mara calling for pressure pads, and Price repeating one word that sounded like please. The screen went black. Hollis reached for anger because it was the only tool left. "That proves nothing," he said. "A chaotic scene. Fragments. You all heard fragments." Tessa stood in the back, one hand braced on a chair. "I heard you threaten her tonight, too." A reporter near the wall said, "So did my camera." Marsh muttered, "Chief." But Hollis was not listening. He leaned toward Mara, voice low but still near the microphone. "You have no idea what you just did." Mara removed the memory card from the laptop and placed it on the table. "Yes, I do." Harper opened her black folder. "Ms. Voss also provided my office one supporting record before this hearing." Hollis snapped, "Of course she did." Harper lifted a clear sleeve containing the photographed receipt. Mara's old watch repair receipt, creased at the corners, with Officer Price's handwritten case number and the words, "Original file" on the back. "This is not being offered tonight to prove the entire case," Harper said. "It confirms a case number associated with the body cam file she described before the hearing. My office verified this number exists in the county archive index. The file itself was marked restricted after internal review." Hollis went still. That was the part he had not expected. Not a stack of papers, not a dramatic folder full of secrets. Just one small receipt carrying a dead officer's handwriting into a room where he could no longer be edited out. Marsh's face had changed color. Hollis said, "County archive indexes are incomplete." Harper said, "Then outside counsel can determine why the record was restricted, who ordered it, and whether the witness file was accessed before her name was posted publicly. The word outside did what the video had not. It made consequences real. Hollis tried one last time to seize the room. This department will not be judged by a laundromat employee with stolen evidence. Mara picked up the nurse's watch from her collar and held it in her palm. Her voice was quiet enough that people leaned toward it. "I was a nurse before you made me a witness," she said, "and I was a witness before you made me a target." Hollis opened his mouth. Mara continued, "You named me in public. You threatened my housing. You mocked my son's watch. You called Officer Price's last act a prop." The mention of her son changed the room more than she expected. Mrs. Alvarez covered her mouth. Tessa lowered her head. Mara placed the watch beside the memory card. "Here is my statement for the record. I am requesting a formal county review of Chief Grant Hollis, Captain Leo Marsh, the handling of the Briar Road body cam file, and the public exposure of my protected status." Hollis said, "You don't get to request—" "I just did." That was the line. Short, calm, final. It did not need volume. The gym held it. Harper faced the reporters, then the room. "This hearing is suspended. The County Oversight Office is preserving the recording from tonight. Chief Hollis, you and Captain Marsh are instructed not to access, alter, or destroy any files related to Briar Road, witness protection, or Ms. Voss pending review." Hollis laughed once, but it came out wrong. You can't suspend a municipal hearing. "The city attorney can argue terminology tomorrow," Harper said. "Tonight, I am preserving a record." A city councilman near the front, pale and sweating, stood halfway. "I think we should adjourn," he said. That was all it took. The public image cracked, and every person who had borrowed courage from Hollis began returning it. Reporters called editors. Phones stayed raised. Parents whispered. Retired officers stared at the floor. The woman from the aisle who had said enough earlier crossed to Mara and simply stood beside her. Marsh tried to leave through the side door. A reporter blocked him with a question. "Captain, is that your voice on the clip?" He did not answer. Hollis remained at the table, surrounded by the flag, the microphones, and the room he had built to celebrate himself. He reached for his papers, but Harper's voice stopped him. "Leave them." He stared at her. "They are part of the record now." The memory card stayed on the table under Harper's clear evidence sleeve. For 11 months, Mara had carried the truth like contraband. In the space of 6 minutes, it had become public enough that no one in Cedar Falls could pretend they had never heard it. The chief did not fall that night in handcuffs. That would have been too easy and too false. But before the week was over, Hollis was placed on administrative leave. Marsh was removed from active duty, pending investigation. The county froze the department's witness protection funding review. Outside counsel took custody of the Briar Road file. And the state licensing board received notice that allegations against Mara were tied to a retaliation complaint. The first consequence came before anyone left the gym. Hollis tried to pass Mara near the aisle. People made room for her, not for him. The video did not fix Cedar Falls overnight. Truth rarely moves that cleanly. By morning, the town hall clip was everywhere. Not the whole body cam file, which Harper's office secured before rumors could chew it apart, but the public moment. Hollis naming Mara. Hollis threatening her support. Mara opening the watch box. The chief trying to walk past her while the crowd made room for someone else. People who had laughed nervously at the hearing began saying they had felt uncomfortable the whole time. Mara did not correct them. She had no strength left for managing other people's late courage. The county placed her housing support under emergency protection, not review. Harper arranged independent legal counsel through a victim witness fund and ordered that any future contact with Mara go through the county office, not Cedar Falls PD. Mrs. Alvarez put Mara back on full shifts before the city contract returned. "I don't need their laundry," she said, slapping a basket onto the counter. People had dirty clothes before governments existed. Mara almost smiled. 3 days after the hearing, a plain envelope arrived from the state licensing board. This one said the misconduct inquiry had been paused pending review of possible retaliation. It was not a full restoration. It did not erase the months of fear. But it was the first official letter in a long time that did not feel like a hand closing around her throat. She taped it inside the kitchen cabinet, where only she could see it. Chief Hollis did not resign that week. He fought, of course. He called the body cam clip incomplete. He called Harper political. He called Mara confused. But each statement sounded smaller than the last because the town had heard his voice before his lawyers cleaned it. Outside counsel later confirmed that the Briar Road file had been restricted under questionable authority. The county opened a formal investigation into witness exposure, report handling, and retaliation. Marsh was placed on leave, then chose retirement before the disciplinary hearing could finish. Hollis remained suspended, while the city council considered termination. It was slower than people wanted. It was also real. Officer Daniel Price's family received a private briefing before any public release. Mara asked to attend only if they wanted her there. They did. Price's mother was a small woman with white hair and a navy coat buttoned to the neck. She listened to the explanation without crying. When it was over, she took Mara's hands in both of hers. He knew who to trust, she said. Mara had no answer for that. Some words are too kind to accept immediately. Weeks passed. The laundromat became different in quiet ways. People stopped whispering when Mara crossed the room. Tessa came in every Tuesday with her toddler and clean court papers folded in her purse. Sometimes she sat near the front window just to drink coffee, where the door locked behind her. Mara still gave medical advice she pretended was common sense. Elevate that ankle. Call the clinic if the fever hits 103. Do not mix those pills unless your doctor says so. One afternoon, Mrs. Alvarez placed a small cardboard sign by the counter. Community Advocate Hours Thursdays 5 to 7. Harper had helped arrange it. A county advocate would sit in the laundromat once a week for people who did not feel safe walking into police headquarters. Mara read the sign twice. "You hate signs," she said. "I hate bad signs," Mrs. Alvarez replied. "This one earns its space." Mara kept working. Healing did not arrive like a parade. It came in practical things. A repaired window latch, a phone number that answered, a paycheck that covered rent, a night where she slept 6 hours without waking to check the locks, and the watch. For months, Mara had worn it like proof that loss could still keep time. After the hearing, the crack across the glass bothered her in a new way. Not because it was ugly, because she had begun to understand that protecting a memory did not mean leaving every wound untouched. She took it to the same repair shop named on the old receipt. The owner was older now, his hands slower, but he remembered the watch. "Your boy picked this one," he said. Mara nodded. He said it looked serious. The man smiled gently. He was right. When she picked it up a week later, the glass was clear. The scratch on the casing remained. The second hand moved with its tiny, stubborn sweep. Mara pinned it back on in the car and sat there until the parking meter expired. 6 months after the hearing, Cedar Falls held a smaller public meeting under new rules. No flags arranged for theater. No chief at a victory table. Witness identities were protected by policy and by habit. Public complaints received tracking numbers that citizens could actually follow. Mara did not speak. She sat in the back beside Tessa and Mrs. Alvarez, hands folded, watch at her collar. Harper presented the changes plainly. No performance, no grand speech. Just a city learning, under pressure, that public trust is not built by hiding damage behind uniforms. When the meeting ended, Mara walked home through East Willow Street. The bakery lights were still off, but spring had softened the alley. Someone had planted marigolds in a cracked concrete pot near her door. Inside, she took Eli's old lunchbox from the highest shelf. For the first time in years, she opened it. There were school pencils, a bent baseball card, 2 smooth stones, and a drawing of Mara in the blue scrubs with a huge watch on her shirt. Under her stick figure feet, Eli had written in crooked letters, "My mom helps people." Mara sat at the kitchen table until the light faded. She did not forgive Hollis. Not that night, maybe not ever. But she did stop letting his cruelty be the loudest voice in the room where her memories lived. The next Thursday, she went to work early. The dryers hummed. Rain tapped the windows. Tessa's little boy pressed his palms to the warm glass of Machine 6 and laughed at the clothes tumbling inside. Mara checked the time. Then she pinned her name tag straight, unlocked the front door, and let the evening in. If you were in Mara's place, would you have stayed hidden or risked everything to make the truth public? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, subscribe for more stories about quiet people who finally get heard.